Okay, so let's talk about the book of Revelation. There's this image of Jesus in there that, let's be honest, can be pretty unsettling. We're talking about a man with eyes like a flame of fire. It sounds like something straight out of a horror movie, right? But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? Let's unpack what this fiery gaze really means. So, here's the verse itself, right from Revelation chapter 2. Who hath his eyes like unto a flame of fire, and his feet are like fine brass. I mean, wow. The language is just so vivid, so intense. It's the kind of thing that's designed to just stop you in your tracks and make you go, wait, what exactly is happening here? For most of us, when we hear eyes like a flame of fire, our minds pretty much jump to one conclusion, right? Judgment. It sounds like this epic scene from a movie, this terrifying, all-seeing gaze that picks up on every single flaw. And look, that's a totally natural reaction. It makes you think of some unblinking judge whose gaze leaves zero room for error, a look that just exposes and condemns. But here's the thing. Is that really the whole story? And that's really the big question we're tackling here. Are we looking at a fire that's meant to destroy? Or could this fiery gaze mean something completely different? Something maybe profound that we might have missed all this time? Well, to find the answer, we've got to dig a little deeper. We need to look at the original language. Because it turns out one tiny little linguistic detail, well, it changes everything. The whole key is hidden in just two words. Okay, so that phrase, like unto, it's absolutely crucial. In the original Greek, it implies a likeness, a similitude. Think of it almost like a mirror. So this isn't about Jesus having laser eyes shooting at you. It's that his eyes are reflecting something that is like fire. You see how that completely shifts the dynamic? So let's break that down. A gaze looking at you, that implies distance, right? Inspection, judgment. But a gaze that reflects what it sees, that's totally different. That implies intimacy, a shared identity, a really deep connection. It's not about just observing someone, it's about recognizing them. And just like that, the whole question changes. We're not asking anymore, what is Jesus inspecting? Now the question becomes, when he looks at his people, at the church, what is he seeing reflected back in his own fiery eyes? So what's the answer? Well, the text suggests he sees his bride, the church, in her purity. And this makes perfect sense because this image comes right after the promise of a white stone in the verse just before it. That stone is a symbol of a new, pure identity. So he's not seeing flaws, he's seeing that purity. He's seeing his own righteousness and the covenant he's made, all being reflected right back at him. Okay, so if the gaze is a reflection, that still leaves one big question. What's up with the fire? And this is where the whole idea pivots, away from destruction and towards something completely different, a refining love. And this idea isn't really new. If you look at the Song of Songs, a book that's all about passionate love, you find this line, "Thou hast ravished my heart with one look of thine eyes." See, a powerful gaze in this context isn't about anger. It's about overwhelming love and desire. So let's just be crystal clear about this. For the believer, this is not a fire of condemnation. It's the fire of divine desire. It's a piercing love that sees way beyond the surface. And it's a purifying truth that, well, it just burns away anything that isn't real. You see this powerful metaphor all over the Bible, the refiner's fire. Think about a silversmith. They use intense heat, not to destroy the silver, but to burn away all the gunk, the impurities. They call it dross. And what's left is pure, precious, and it reflects the silversmith's own face more clearly. That's the purpose of this fire. So you can kind of see a process taking shape here. Step 1, a believer is given a new identity, that white stone of purity. Step 2, Jesus' gaze sees that purity reflected in them. And then step 3, the fire of that loving gaze actually works to purify and deepen that very reflection, making it even more real, even more true. But wait, let's not forget the second part of the verse. It says, his feet are like fine brass. Now, this isn't just some random detail thrown in there. It's actually the very foundation that this whole idea of fiery eyes is standing on. So what does fine brass even mean? Well, in the original Greek, it's talking about this super refined, glowing metal, something that's already been purified by fire. And symbolically, that represents just immense strength, unshakable stability, and a kind of righteousness that's been tested and proven true. And if you look throughout the Bible, you see this connection all over the place. Brass is consistently tied to God's holy judgment. You know, the altar where sins were atoned for, it was covered in brass. The bronze serpent that brought healing, it was a symbol of judgment that people had to look at. It's a really consistent theme. Okay, so here's where it all clicks together. His feet of brass mean that this loving, purifying, fiery gaze isn't just based on some passing mood or whim. No way. It stands on the firmest foundation you could possibly imagine. His own perfect, tested, and absolutely unshakable righteousness. So the big question is, why does any of this matter? What does reframing this kind of scary verse actually mean for you, personally? Well, it shifts the entire vision from one of fear to one of redemption. So what are the big takeaways here? Well, first off, it means that being fully seen by Jesus isn't something to be afraid of. It's actually the foundation for our growth. It also means he's not just interested in your starting point, but in your entire journey. It's a challenge, really, to make sure our service and actions are coming from a heart that's aligned with his. And it calls us to be patient, to endure that refining process, because we know it's shaping us into who we're truly meant to be. At the end of the day, this gaze is redemptive. It's not just about pointing out your flaws. It's about seeing your true potential. It's about seeing the destiny he has planned for you and the finished work he is absolutely committed to completing in you. He doesn't just see who you are now, he sees who you are becoming. And this whole idea is backed up by promises all over Scripture, like this one from Philippians. The God who started this good work in you is faithful. He's going to see it through to the very end. That gaze, it's a promise of completion. So I'll leave you with this to think about. If his gaze is a loving, refining fire, what is it revealing in you today? What's the precious thing it sees? And maybe, what are the little impurities it's gently burning away just to make you more real, more you?